Your kidneys are the very first organ to react the moment you decide to quit sugar for good. Long before your waistline changes, your body starts a quiet chemical shift you cannot see or feel yet. Insulin begins dropping almost instantly, and your kidneys respond by releasing extra sodium and water. That sudden fluid shift is why your very first headache feels sharper than any headache you remember. But something even faster is happening deep inside your brain, and it explains your entire first 3 days. The moment sugar disappears, your reward system reacts like it has been robbed. Dopamine, the chemical that fuels anticipation and pleasure, drops rapidly and leaves your brain searching for stimulation. Your nucleus accumbens, the brain's pleasure center, goes strangely quiet, almost like someone switched off the lights inside. Researchers at Harvard have shown that constant sugar intake actually dulls your dopamine receptors over time. Once sugar disappears, those same receptors slowly begin waking up again, and the process feels deeply uncomfortable. This discomfort explains why you feel irritable, restless, or emotionally raw during those very first days. Your stomach may feel completely calm, yet your brain screams for a reward it once received easily. Scientists call this hedonic hunger, a craving driven by emotion and habit rather than actual physical need. And here is the twist almost nobody expects during those difficult early days of quitting sugar completely. The stronger your craving feels, the more aggressively your dopamine receptors are working to heal themselves. That pounding headache is not weakness at all, but proof your brain is recalibrating after years of overstimulation. This entire process closely mimics withdrawal, revealing just how deeply sugar had woven itself into your daily emotional life. Stanford imaging studies actually show dopamine pathways physically shrink after years of repeated sugar surges hitting your brain. Without sugar constantly flooding your system, these pathways slowly begin repairing themselves and returning toward their original sensitivity. That repair feels chaotic because your brain is essentially relearning how pleasure works without artificial spikes interrupting it. The emotional turbulence you feel during days 1 through 3 is not really about hunger, it's about your entire reward system rewiring itself from the ground up in real time. You are not starving during this phase, you are detoxing from something your brain wrongly believed was essential. This is exactly why discomfort arrives before any real shift in energy or metabolism becomes noticeable. But underneath all that chaos, a genuine healing window has already quietly opened inside your body. Even when you cannot feel it, every craving wave proves your nervous system is fighting its way back toward balance. Once dopamine finally stabilizes, those intense cravings begin fading, and your appetite settles into a calmer, more predictable rhythm. So those brutal first 3 days are not punishment for quitting sugar, they are simply the price of freedom. By day 4, your cravings finally start softening, but your body is quietly preparing for another major internal shift. This time, your kidneys step into the spotlight, the silent filters responsible for managing every drop of fluid inside you. For years, high insulin forced your kidneys to hold sodium tightly, trapping water you never even realized you were storing. Researchers at the NIH describe insulin as a hidden fluid retention hormone that controls far more than just blood sugar. So when sugar disappears and insulin finally drops, your kidneys interpret this as permission to release built-up pressure. Sodium begins leaving through urine, and water follows right behind it, creating the very first visible change most people notice immediately. Your face looks less swollen in the morning, your jawline appears sharper, and your eyelids feel noticeably lighter than before. This transformation is not vanity, it is pure physiology, the earliest sign that your metabolic load is finally beginning to ease. Many people mistake this early shift for fat loss, but it is something far more temporary and misunderstood. For every gram of glycogen your body stored, it also held nearly 3 grams of water alongside it. When insulin drops, that entire water reservoir empties rapidly, which explains the dramatic number you suddenly see on your scale. This is exactly why losing 1 to 3 kilograms in the first week is completely normal and expected. But here comes a twist that confuses almost everyone attempting to quit sugar for the very first time. As water leaves your body, essential electrolytes leave right along with it, creating dizziness, fatigue, and that strange feeling people call sugar flu. The real problem is not the absence of sugar itself, it is the sudden imbalance of sodium, potassium, and magnesium inside you. Physicians at the Mayo Clinic emphasize that drinking water without replacing minerals can actually worsen your symptoms and prolong every headache. This means chugging more plain water alone will not solve the problem you are currently struggling through. You must actively replace what your kidneys are releasing, and even a pinch of salt can help enormously. Leafy greens or naturally mineral-rich water can stabilize your internal chemistry surprisingly quickly and gently. Once your electrolytes finally stabilize, your kidneys begin working in a smoother, far more energy-efficient rhythm than before. The depuffing effect intensifies noticeably, giving your face a clarity you might not have seen in years. Even your abdomen feels lighter as trapped water around your digestive tissues finally begins to dissipate completely. This is your kidneys breathing freely again after years spent compensating for constant sugar and insulin overload. But this relief is only the beginning of a much deeper metabolic restoration that is quietly building underneath the surface. Because once your water weight settles, your body begins preparing to change its entire fuel hierarchy from sugar to fat. That major shift begins around day 7, and it marks a turning point far more profound than anything on the surface. By day 7, the visible changes slow down, but the internal struggle becomes almost impossible to ignore or explain away. Your energy dips unpredictably, and a heavy mental fog drifts across your thoughts with surprising and unsettling intensity. This fog is not failure, it is metabolic friction created as your entire fuel system begins its difficult transition. For decades, glucose was your default power source, fast to ignite and effortlessly easy for your body to obtain. But now, with glycogen nearly empty, your body turns toward a slower, older biochemical solution buried deep inside you. Your liver steps into its ancient evolutionary role, generating fresh glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis to keep you functioning. This is not dietary sugar at all, but freshly synthesized fuel designed specifically to protect your most delicate and vulnerable cells. Red blood cells, kidney medulla cells, and certain brain regions still require glucose to keep functioning properly and efficiently. So your liver rations glucose carefully, almost like a lantern keeper protecting a small flame through a long night. This metabolic transition feels uncomfortable because your entire system is trading convenience for long-term endurance and resilience. Researchers at the NIH describe this exact shift as rebuilding metabolic flexibility, a human advantage most of us have quietly lost. And here is the paradox almost nobody talks about during this exhausting phase of quitting sugar completely. Your weakest feeling days arrive right before your strongest metabolic phase truly begins to take shape inside you. Your fatigue is simply the sound of your entire energy hierarchy being rewritten from the inside out. As gluconeogenesis stabilizes, the enzymes responsible for breaking down fat become noticeably more active and far more available. Your cells begin using fatty acids more efficiently, feeding your muscles with steadier, longer-lasting fuel throughout the day. Meanwhile, your mitochondria are forced to adapt, increasing their efficiency to support this entirely new energy landscape. This adaptation creates smoother, steadier energy without the dramatic highs and crashes tied to sugar-driven metabolism. But your brain resists at first, struggling as it slowly transitions from glucose toward burning ketones for fuel instead. Ketones actually burn cleaner than sugar ever did, but your neurons still need time to accept this new fuel. The brain fog you feel right now is simply the rewiring process happening, not a sign of harm or deficiency. Once adaptation fully occurs, many people report a clarity far more stable than anything sugar ever provided them before. But for now, this discomfort marks an ancient survival system slowly waking up and remembering how to function. After day 10, a far more visible transformation quietly begins, one involving inflammation, collagen, and the way you physically age. By day 10, the mental fog begins lifting, and another quiet transformation gently takes its place inside your body. You start noticing your skin looking brighter, your joints feeling lighter, and your face far less inflamed overall. These changes are not cosmetic luck, they are direct biochemical consequences of finally removing sugar's hidden metabolic burden. For years, excess glucose attached itself to your proteins through a damaging process scientists call glycation. This reaction forms compounds called AGEs, toxic molecules that stiffen collagen, weaken elastin, and accelerate visible signs of aging. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic describe AGEs as molecular rust, slowly damaging your tissues quietly from the inside out. When you quit sugar, this rusting process finally slows down, allowing your skin and connective tissues to breathe again. Your collagen fibers, once pulled painfully tight by sugar bonds, begin regaining their natural flexibility and youthful softness. This flexibility explains exactly why your joints feel less swollen, less stiff, and far less resistant to everyday movement. Meanwhile, your immune system becomes noticeably calmer, no longer constantly triggered by sugar-induced inflammation running through your body. Sugar spikes stimulate cytokines, inflammatory messengers that elevate pain and quietly worsen chronic conditions over time. With sugar finally gone, these cytokines decline sharply, giving your tissues a long-awaited chance to rest and repair. This drop in inflammation is exactly why breakouts diminish, redness softens, and that constantly tired-looking face disappears. But here comes a twist that most people completely overlook during this exact stage of quitting sugar entirely. Your body does not just reduce inflammation, it actively reallocates that saved energy towards cellular renewal and tissue repair. Without constant glucose surges hitting your system, your mitochondria experience far less oxidative stress and function much more efficiently. This efficiency creates a subtle vitality you can feel as steadier energy and clearly see as brighter skin tone. Deep within your bloodstream, insulin keeps declining, lowering the inflammatory load your arteries have silently carried for years. Even your gut receives relief, producing fewer inflammatory byproducts that once circulated freely throughout your entire system. This internal quiet allows your nervous system to stabilize, making your mood noticeably calmer and far less emotionally reactive. And the cumulative effect becomes striking because you genuinely begin aging backward at a pace you can feel. But this healing phase is only the prelude to an even more surprising shift happening right around day 14. Because as inflammation drops, your appetite signals finally realign, your taste buds awaken, and fullness feels completely different now. By day 13, something unexpected begins happening, not in your skin or joints, but directly on your tongue itself. Your taste buds, which fully renew roughly every 10 days, have finally replaced their old sugar-dulled predecessors completely. For years, excessive sweetness overwhelmed them, forcing every natural flavor to compete against an impossible, artificially inflated standard. Now, without constant sugar exposure, these tiny sensory cells regain a sensitivity they had quietly lost over many years. This is exactly why a simple apple suddenly tastes vibrant, complex, and surprisingly sweet again after all this time. But taste is only the surface, because deeper hormonal changes are shaping your appetite with remarkable and quiet precision. When insulin stays consistently low, your brain finally hears the hormone leptin clearly, often for the first time in years. Leptin is your fullness signal, the quiet internal voice whispering enough long before overeating ever actually begins happening. High sugar intake silences this voice completely, creating a biological illusion of endless hunger and constant mindless snacking throughout the day. With sugar gone, that silence finally breaks, and your body regains its natural ability to stop eating intuitively again. This is exactly why many people feel satisfied earlier, even while eating noticeably less food than they used to. But the transformation does not stop with appetite alone. It reaches all the way into your brain's deeper wiring. Sugar reduction increases BDNF, a growth factor directly responsible for memory, learning, and long-term neural resilience. Harvard neuroscientists often call BDNF fertilizer for the brain because it strengthens synapses and dramatically supports mental clarity. As BDNF rises, your thoughts feel steadier, your mood deepens, and emotional eating slowly loses its familiar, powerful grip. You no longer chase food for stimulation. You eat simply because your body genuinely needs real nourishment now. This distinction marks a powerful shift, moving you from craving-driven behavior toward calm, intentional internal regulation instead. Your digestive rhythm follows closely, becoming smoother as your taste buds and hormones finally realign with natural, honest cues. Even small meals feel far more satisfying because your brain finally processes sweetness and fullness accurately once again. This recalibration is the exact moment many people describe as food freedom, the true end of compulsive sugar dependence. And by day 14, you realize something genuinely profound. Quitting sugar did not just change your diet, it changed your perception. But before this journey ends, one final chapter remains, a chapter about safety, balance, and long-term wisdom. 14 days without sugar is not an achievement to boast about, but a biological mirror reflecting your true underlying metabolism. Throughout this journey, you have watched dopamine reset, kidneys decompress, inflammation fall, and appetite signals slowly reawaken inside you. But the deeper purpose here is understanding the kind of clarity that lets you finally see your body honestly. Science shows that removing sugar temporarily reveals patterns you could never notice within your normal, everyday eating routine. Yet science also reminds us that this kind of reset demands real responsibility, especially for anyone managing existing medical conditions. For anyone using insulin or certain diabetes medications, abrupt sugar reduction risks dangerous blood sugar drops without careful medical supervision involved. Endocrinologists emphasize that medication dosage changes must always be supervised because medication cannot adapt automatically the way your organs do. Another important consideration involves your adrenal system, which governs your body's response to stress and metabolic demand. For anyone already under chronic stress, cutting carbohydrates too sharply can elevate cortisol and disrupt your natural hormonal rhythms. Symptoms like anxiety, sleeplessness, or internal tension are not failures. They are simply your hormones sending honest feedback signals. There's also a psychological landscape where disciplined eating can quietly drift into something far more extreme and harmful. Orthorexia often begins with genuinely noble intentions but becomes harmful once food turns into a constant source of fear. If you feel guilty over small choices or anxious about occasional treats, it is time to pause with real compassion. Because the true goal of this entire experiment is awareness, not punishment, and balance, not rigid, unforgiving perfection. Yet here lies an interesting twist that many people experience after successfully completing 14 full sugar-free days. Some discover their cravings vanish so completely that returning to old sweetness feels strangely foreign and almost unrecognizable to them. Their taste buds sharpen, their energy stabilizes, and sugar no longer provides the emotional comfort it once reliably did. These individuals do not avoid sugar out of fear anymore, but because their biology simply stops requesting it entirely. It becomes a genuine preference shaped by clarity, not a rigid rule shaped by fear or restriction anymore. A quiet internal shift rather than a loud dramatic declaration to the entire world around them. But this particular path is deeply personal, and not everyone must or should follow it permanently to gain real benefit. For most people, long-term health actually comes from moderation, not total elimination, from consistency rather than extreme behavior. Your body genuinely thrives when given space to repair itself, but it also thrives when given kindness and flexibility. So let these 14 days serve as a gentle reset, not a lifetime vow, unless your body gently chooses otherwise. Whatever path you decide to take next, remember this simple truth clearly and carry it with you always. Your body is wiser, calmer, and far more adaptable than you have ever truly given it credit for.